Morning, family. How's everybody doing? I hope y'all doing well on this Wednesday morning, hump day. So, man, listen. I had a behind the pen for you all. I prepared it yesterday, and then I looked back over the footage, and I noticed that my tie was sitting up above my collar, and I was like, golly, man, I can't do it. I can't release it. But the reason why I'm so hurt is because, like the young people say, man, I was cooking. I was cooking yesterday. You know what I'm saying? I had the stove on, man. I had all the ingredients. Yeah, I was going at it. But I'll reshoot it and I'll get it out to you soon, especially because I want to, stay on top of the podcast episodes and my rationale behind each one of the episodes. But not this morning, man. Listen, I wanted to talk to you all about something that's personal, and I'll be as respectful as possible to the people that are involved in the situation, when I tell you all about the details. Like I mentioned, man, when I first started back shooting videos and posting my podcast, that I'm remarried now. Well, in order to be remarried, then there must have been a divorce, right? And so I decided to handle that situation a little differently than most people might expect. Most of my brothers probably understand where I'm coming from. Some may not. But, so I have two daughters, right? Like I mentioned, one of my daughters, she stays with me. I have full custody of her. And I do my best to take care of her the best way that I can. And then I have an older daughter, my oldest child, and she, of course, stays with her mom. So when the divorce was in the works, we initially separated. And when we separated, there was a few months left on the lease where we were. And then I decided that I was going to move back to the area where I am now. I was going to come back to the area because I had built a small business here. The state contract that I work is housed in the facility, probably about 15-20 minutes from my residence. So I said, okay, well, we'll just go back, and then we'll pick up where we left off. And thank God that was successful. And even on top of that, there's some other things that was added that made the situation better for me and my daughter. But here's the thing, you all, and I'm getting diverted from what I really want to talk to you all about. You have to be in your child's life. And it's not for your reputation. It's not about how people look at you. But it's for a very special reason. And let me explain, because I don't want to ramble. So, when we separated and I came back to where I am now, my oldest daughter made the decision that she was going to stay with her mother. And of course, my youngest daughter, she decided that she was going to come with me. So, as you can imagine, when the divorce proceedings were going on, emotions were high. I pride myself on being a stoic man. I pride myself on controlling my emotions so that they don't spill over onto other people. And so that was my attempt in this situation. While the divorce proceedings were going on, my daughter made it clear to me that she would rather go with her mother. And I couldn't fight her about it. I said, okay, well, I'll do what I can. And from a financial standpoint, I made sure that she was taken care of. I did. I took care of her to the best of my ability at that time based upon my income, right? So it's always been, she's always had resources at her disposal. When you get in the system and you start to pay child support, and then you start to work for state agencies, they take it out for you automatically. So all the time that I've been away from her, except for maybe a couple of months, my employer has been making sure that those funds get distributed to her, and I'm thankful for that. It takes the headache, the work out of it. But in the process, there was some animosity there. It was. I think it was some animosity because of the way that the situation went down. And so, for a while, me and my oldest, we didn't really have a close relationship. We didn't have a relationship like a father and a daughter would normally have, right? And I take full responsibility for that. But at the time, I was holding back what had actually happened that caused the divorce. Because at the time, the children were younger. I'm just being honest, I don't think that they could handle the knowledge of what had actually happened. And I won't get into that because that'll be beating a dead horse, but I chose to be the bad guy in the situation. I chose to be the person to take the brunt of the hit. And because of that, then it put a strain on our relationship. And so for maybe 4.5 years, we weren't really that close because the thought process was that it was something that I had done. Now, I'm not saying that I was perfect. I'm not saying that there weren't things about my personality that I could have worked on, but I'm saying that wasn't the cause of the divorce. Okay? Now, if you follow Bible principles and you're aware, there's only one reason that's given scripturally for a divorce. So I don't have to address that, okay? I don't have to get into that. But last year, after having gone through all of the difficulties associated with the surgery, because remember now, the surgery was at the end of 2023, and the majority of my rehabilitation was 2024. So in 2025, I said that I was going to make it a priority to reestablish a relationship with my oldest daughter. And of course, my youngest daughter was all for it. She would call my oldest, put on the phone with me. She tell her what was going on in my life, what I was doing. And so the repair of the relationship became a priority for me. And so what happened was I talked to Boss Lady, my manager, and I arranged some time off, and I took the girls to New Orleans because I just needed a break. There was a lot of things that was going on, and I just needed to, take a breather. But before we made it to New Orleans on the drive, I told my daughters, I said, listen, if there's anything that you need to clear the air on, let's clear the air before we get to New Orleans. And you got to understand that that statement, that request from me probably was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, because now I'm opening myself up to hear what you really think, and what you think might not be something that I agree with, and what is more, it might be something that's hurtful. But I let them open up. I said, okay, now tell me. The question, although it was aimed primarily at my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter was free to say what she thought as well. And as you might imagine, my youngest daughter, because of being so close to me, she didn't have anything she needed to get off her chest. But you see, the oldest one absolutely did. She did. And I didn't stop her. I didn't question her. I didn't reprimand her. I didn't scold her. I just simply allowed her to speak her mind. And she said some things, you all, that emphasized to me the fact that I need to be around. You need to establish a relationship with your children, man. Forget about what happened with the mother. Forget about what their father did, man. Establish a relationship with the children where you can have open dialogue, because they need that. There are things that they need to understand that nobody else can provide the answer to but a parent. And I'll give you an example. So, the first thing, my daughter said was she felt like I had thrown her away. She felt like I didn't want her around. That my youngest was my favorite child. And then get this. She said that she had been told by her grandparents, one in particular, that she was not wanted. She wasn't the child that was wanted. She was a mistake. And that the only reason why I was around was because I wanted to make sure I had access, or the only reason why I married her mother is because I wanted to have access to her as a child. You see, and like I said, we're gonna be positive about this, but I'm using the situation and the elements involved in the situation to teach a very, very important lesson. And oh yes, I'm teaching, because there's some brothers out there that don't understand the gravity of the situation. You have to be around, because this 18-year-old young lady was under the impression that nobody wanted her. She was under the impression that she wasn't loved by her father. She was under the impression that her whole existence wasn't intentional. Her whole existence was a mistake. And the reason why she felt that way, because it was a third party telling her some garbage. Oh yeah, I apologize now. Of course, now you're not gonna get any profanity from me, but you can tell that situation, it kind of warmed me up. Because here's the thing, what is the purpose of saying something that's not going to reinforce this person's self-esteem? This is your granddaughter. Why would you say something to try to tear her down, to make her feel less than? Right? So that's why I say you need to be there, especially if you're a father. Listen, man, we got to be there. You got to be there. Forget about the complaints about what you're not able to do financially, or your failures, the things that clearly you can work on. Forget about that, man. The only thing they need is you. They need you. And in this instance, I took a moment to reaffirm her existence. Yes, I wanted you. When I found out that I was having a child, my next thought was, let me start getting ready. And now Marlon and Sean was here with me, my good friends from college, man. They would tell you what my response was. Now, at first, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of shocked. I was. But at the same time, because of the fact that I have always wanted to be a father, this was not a situation that I ran from. Yes, you are wanted. Yes, you are loved. Yes, you have value. And that's all because I wasn't there to strike down the foolishness that she was exposed to, because I was absent, right? I'm absent, so she couldn't ask me. She couldn't say, well, Dad, is that true? So you got people that just talking. You just talking, man. You really, you don't know what the situation is, because you're a third party. So I told her, I said, baby, listen, what you do is, you ask either me or your mother. Ask one of the two. And that'll be your answer. So I'm so thankful though. Because after saying that to her, after looking her in the face and telling her how I felt, and you know I'm not really, like I mentioned, I'm a stoic kind of guy. I'm not really emotionally driven. I look at situations and I try to assess whether situations will be good in the long run, and then I act accordingly. But I had to take that moment. I had to take that moment to feel the emotion of the situation. The brevity and the gravity of what had happened to this child was unforgivable. Unforgivable. Why would you say something to a child in that manner? And you are supposed to be one of the parents. You're a grandparent. Why would you say that? Why would you tell somebody that, you know, really they weren't wanted as a child? And so after telling her that, you know, I'm driving and I'm trying to keep my eye on the road, but I happened to glance back at her. And you should have seen the tears just flowing. the tears flowing from her eyes. That was something that she needed to hear. She needed to hear that from me. She needed to know that she had a father in the world who would move heaven and earth to make sure that she was okay. She needed to hear that from me, man. Evidently, the masculine presence that was around her didn't reassure her. And maybe they shouldn't have. Maybe that was my job. And if it was, if I hadn't done it in 4 years, I did it that day. I did it that day. I made it a point so that she knew that she was valuable to me. Forget about what everybody else says or thinks. You are valuable to me. And that was probably one of the proudest moments I've had my whole life, man. And I've done quite a couple things. I've done some things that I thought I wouldn't be able to do, and I was able to do. But this is absolutely one of the best things in life that I had ever done up until that point. So that's why I say, man, brothers, they need us, man. They need our affirmation. They need us to show them that their existence on this planet wasn't just happenstance. It wasn't. Because, like I mentioned, she had been told otherwise. And then that trip went wonderfully. We had some times where, you know, we laughed, we joked around, we ate good the whole trip. And then, interestingly enough, in our room, we had a mushroom growing in the corner. I don't know what that was about. But overall, it was a good trip. It was. We enjoyed ourselves, and I was thankful, man, that I had taken the opportunity to try to repair that relationship with my daughter. Because now, man, it's like daylight and dark. Excuse me. I can have interactions with her, and you know, I hear her say, "That's my dad." I know what to say, or I know what to do, and it just feels wonderful, man. You know, it was like I mentioned, it was about 4.5 years that situation went on. But man, I tell you, you just got to be present. You have to be. You got to be present, man, because it's a true statement, bro. They not gonna remember the last toy that you bought them, or the last tablet, or the last anything that was material. They're gonna remember how you made them feel. They're gonna remember the love and the appreciation that you expressed for just them being alive and being in existence. And I hadn't seen that. Not in my daughter's case. I didn't see it. I didn't see in the fog that is divorce and separation. I didn't see that this young lady needed me to reaffirm her, because the whole family at that point broke apart. It did. The whole family went in different directions. And I guess what she was looking for from me was just to say, okay, no matter what direction I go in, no matter what place you find me in, I'm still your father, and I'm still here to provide for you what you need. And I did that day. And like I mentioned, that was a proud day for me. And so, brothers, if you have strained relationships with your children, man, especially if they're younger. Now, as an adult, you know, you let them go on and do what they got to do. But as younger people, you want them to have the best future that they possibly can. And a lot of times, the way that you can help to ensure that, man, is to validate their existence. Validate their existence. A couple of words, man, a hug, a smile, a kiss on the cheek or the forehead, and you have repaired years of distress, years of mental and emotional trauma. You cleared it up in just a couple of minutes because you took the opportunity when it was presented to you to make sure that she knew or he knows that they're valuable. They're your children. You know, they're your legacy, and you appreciate them. And you want to see them do well and have everything that they need, and you're going to do your best to make sure that they have what they need. And whether or not you succeed at that, man, is not really important. Of course, I want you to do and handle your responsibilities, but whether or not you succeed is not what they're going to remember. They're going to remember that daddy put forth the effort, man. I'm speaking from the heart because that's the only way I know how to speak. My beautiful daughter, she allowed me, man, to be at her graduation, to see her walk the stage. And listen, it's just a wonderful thing, man. And as an offshoot of having that conversation with her, one of the things she said, and you know, and it was cathartic for everybody, but one of the things she said, Dad, I understand now. She said, I understand the reason why you did things the way that you did them. I understand now the reason why you felt the way you felt. Because she had evidently been in a failed relationship herself. Now, how did that happen? Well, I wasn't around, you know, to you know, put my foot down or to, you know, to check this young man to see what he was all about. So, she evidently had gone through a failed relationship herself. But me, my thing is, man, I'm gonna put my best foot forward, because I would want her to find someone that, just like me, that cares for her, that loves her, and that wants the best for her. And although the beginning of the trip was a difficult, it was a hard time for us. Because you know, you asking people to speak how they really feel without a filter, and when you initiate that kind of conversation, you better be ready for the impact. I can tell you that. But in the end, like I mentioned, it worked out well. She was able to unburden herself. And I'm happy that I was able to give her the opportunity to do that, man. And so that just, you know, I got up this morning thinking about that. I got up smiling because I got both of my daughters back now, man. Both of them. And to me, that's a blessing, because I love both of them. And as their father, I want them to have successful lives. I want them to be happy. And part of that happiness has to be rooted, in my opinion, in their own view of themselves. And, you know, anybody would tell you when it comes to things that you shouldn't do, I'm rough on you about things that you shouldn't do, but the things that you do right, I try to make sure that I balance the commendation. So to the extent that I was rough on you about what you did wrong, it's going to be the same extent to which I commend you and tell you that you're valuable and that I love you and that I'm really proud of you and that I want you to continue to do well. That's how I operate. So I just wanted to share that with you all, man. I want everybody to have a good Wednesday. You see my tie just how it should be, right? So I'll be able to publish this one. Y'all have a good one, man. You know I love you.